How can we turn raw thoughts into words, pictures, paintings, film? After reading The Sympathizer and watching the series, I found it extraordinary that a confession by one man was written to resemble his stream of thoughts while recounting his memories. I was even more so stunned by the way the series captured the essence of this stream of consciousness, but through its own vision, one that allowed the audience to understand what was going on in the captain's mind. But can I turn my thoughts into a film? Would others understand it, or would my stream of consciousness break by outside perspectives? Writing in the form of a stream of consciousness seems easy, right? Just simply write down your thoughts. But for every action, for every one word written, another thing pops up in your mind. Another word, a phrase, a sentence, a monologue. There's no end and there's no pause button. So the best we can do is try translating this impossible form of self-communication. From what I recall, it's about a time when I wanted to tell my roommate about a dream I had, but then simply I forgot. It navigates what this process of forgetting and remembering awakened in my stream of consciousness. A happening takes part of our routine lives and captures the unpredictability that can arise when we simply allow things to happen. As a student in Business of Cinematic Arts, I've grown accustomed to reading scripts, writing coverage, discussing ways to change and improve stories, and so have my classmates. Adapting involves various perspectives on a story to ensure that it's understandable for more than one person. It's a time where a story can completely change or stay the exact same, all depending on factors like financing, audience, production company, timing, and personal influence. For The Sympathizer, the novel was pretty much completely in the series. For Mrs. Dalloway, the hours merely used the novel as inspiration. I asked two of my friends who I've worked with as directors to participate in a happening. I told them two tasks to begin the process: to read my short story, and afterwards, I asked them how they would adapt it into a short film. Victoria was realistic. She wanted to ensure smooth communication between watcher and creator. She recommended the implementation of a second character, as if the narrator was recounting her memories to a therapist. She encouraged the repetition of dream, then dialogue, dream, then dialogue. Victoria wanted everything to feel uncanny for viewers, as if what they're seeing on screen can mimic the phenomenon of muffled sound. She wanted to make everything obvious for the audience, like adding a haze over the dream scenes and turning the internal thoughts of the narrator into real-world problems, from peer pressure to gun violence. While storyboarding, Victoria described the transition from the narrator's cliff-jumping dream to the story's conclusion. She wanted to create a situation where the haziness in the dream would abruptly open onto the narrator's eyes, leaving audiences to expect us to be with the therapist once more. Instead, we're seated in the narrator's original dream, in a chair, waiting for her tattoos. But we fade once more, from being alone to being with the therapist, diving deeper into the question of what is reality and what is a dream. Andrew was experimental. He attached himself to the idea of pain in the short, something that people could relate to. He recommended using tight shots and close-ups to demonstrate the physical manifestations of pain in the short story. This included tight shots of the tattoo needle and close-ups on the narrator's eyes. He wanted to contrast these shots with wide ones that would show negative space visually, hinting towards the narrator's emptiness in her dreams. Andrew insisted on communicating through film shots rather than words and dialogue, creating a thriller similar in cinematography to Interstellar. The most important detail was never having the narrator's eyes closed. This would communicate different feelings through eyes, like fear, pain, and emptiness. While storyboarding, Andrew described the scene where the narrator talks about the feeling of the shots going through her skin. He wanted to show this through a balloon, as it constantly became bigger and the camera zooms in on the air inflating the thinning rubber. The zoop would indicate a cut to the narrator's eyes, capturing her reaction. So to answer my question, how can we turn raw thoughts into words, pictures, paintings, film? You just let it happen. From the writing stage, you try your best to capture your thoughts. It's hard, of course, but whatever you write down means you, yourself, had to think before typing. We may miss certain words, but the ideas can be captured. It's inevitable to miss minute details of our thoughts. Again, it's a language of our mind that can't be translated through mediums. Then comes the next step of translation and transformation, allowing others to make sense of your thoughts. We have intimate relationships with ourselves. We can understand what goes on in our brains, and we can take a step to share those ideas with others. But our friends can never fully understand us, so we must allow them to use their minds in order to make sense of our minds. They use their own experiences as references to understand our experiences. This is why happenings are so unique. They provide a context that is understood in everyone's individual ways, leading to new events that could never exist with one person. My adaptation happening explained this to me. With my friends each having their unique adaptations of my short story, I was able to read a little into their minds. I saw how one was realistic and thoughtful of what could be accomplished as a student, while the other was ambitious and optimistic of how much potential the story had. But even with these drastically different versions, a combination would not satisfy my thoughts. I imagined this and that and actually lived through the experience. But to translate thoughts to words to screens, more and more gets lost along the way for more and more people to understand. Sympathetic adaptation requires picking and choosing. We must decide what's important to convey, and then we must go on to find out how it must be conveyed. Once thoughts turn to words, and words into pictures, paintings, and film, the only thing left is to wait for people to understand, to sympathize, and to relate. We must wait for things to happen. All that should remain the same, no matter the medium, is the fact that a reaction should take place, usually an emotional one, from what I recall.